What can Harbour Freight's Portland 14-inch electric chainsaw cut? William Hovey Smith, 2018. I'm the author of Create Your Own Job Security. Plan to start your own business at midlife. One of these businesses might be clearing your neighbor's yards of fallen trees with inexpensive electric chainsaws.
This is Hovey Smith, the Backyard Sportsman. And behind me is one of our fallen pecan limbs. This is something that happens in the spring and early summer. Pecans have long limbs that extend far from the trunk. And as they accumulate leaves and start to set nuts, sometimes this weight is more than that limb can structurally bear, and they fail and fall. Such is the case of this one. I think it may have been slightly damaged in a previous storm. This extra weight just finished it off. Now we're going to tackle this with an electric chainsaw, but right now it's standing like this with the end of the trunk up. So I'm going to get it down on the ground before I start tackling it. So don't do the redneck thing and take the biggest chainsaw you've got and start cutting willy-nilly. No, take your limb, drag it down, get it in a more stable condition, cut off the smaller limbs first. And you can see how high it goes up into the tree. So it's really standing vertical. Now on that rope, swings around, and I have a cherry laurel, which is a fairly stout tree. And I'm going to pass the rope around it, put my truck on the other end of it, and then pull the tree down, and incidentally closer to the house and closer to the reach of my power cords. Okay, we're going to give it a pull and see what happens. And now we have the desired result, and the tree is in a much more stable condition and much safer to work on than it was suspended up there in the air about 12 feet. My cord is attached to an outside plug, and the first thing we're going to do is tackle this lowest limb here and start by removing these extra branches to reduce the weight of the tree. Here is a good view of the Harbour Freight Portland chainsaw and the work we're trying to do with it. The Harbour Freight saw is a lightweight saw. It of course is an electric saw, and its length and reach depends on how much extension cord you've got. I just hooked up another heavy-duty extension cord. So we're going to cut these other limbs that are not carrying weight right now. Because when I do start cutting the weight-bearing limbs, this tree is going to rotate on me. And the fewer things I have flying around overhead, the better I like it. So I don't want to be hit by a branch propelled by a couple of 100 pounds of wood. So we're going to trim off some of this excess stuff right now and get rid of it. We're making good progress here. And you note we sort of cleaned off that piece that was sticking out. And we're also keeping our footways and walkways clear. Again, you just don't want to get your feet tangled up in this mess, particularly with pecan, since the branches are so irregular. It's easy to trip, and when you're doing it with a chainsaw, that's doubly dangerous. I can now see the structural elements that are actually holding the tree, rather than being obscured by all the leaves and miscellaneous branches. The saw seems to be doing pretty good. I'm going to cut a 4-inch section here, and we'll see how that one goes. That did well. But keep in mind, this is absolutely green wood. The longer you let this wood set, the harder it is to cut. Remember, pecan is a relative of the hickory tree, and hickory is very hard wood indeed. Now I'm going to start cutting on that long straight limb. And as before, the first things I'm going to remove are the branches that are not bearing any weight. Now that we have the protruding stuff removed from the main part of this limb, I can safely cut it, and even if the limb falls and rotates, there's nothing around that's going to clobber me in the back of the head. Well, thus far, the little saw has conquered everything it has set teeth to. But now the main test will come. It's again threatening rain, and I'm going to try to cut this big tip of this trunk right here. And if it'll make it through that, that's pretty good for a little electric saw. So we're going to get started on it and see how we do. So I'm going to feed it some oil. This is going to be the toughest cut it's had thus far. Success! Good boy! Good boy! Yeah. That is a nice, good cut. All right. Well, our little saw did very, very well indeed. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the rest of this. I run a knife shop, Hovey's Knives of China, and my custom use for this chainsaw, and also many other knife makers, is to do a little cutting on raw wood every once in a while. This limb is a piece of American chestnut, from a live tree, by the way, There is one grove living still in North America. And when a limb falls, I occasionally try to salvage a little wood for knife scales. So we're going to see if we can now work this wood after going through all this cutting, which is the most extensive use of this chainsaw I've ever done. Otherwise, it was practically new. That's reasonable. Yeah, that's good, nice colored chestnut. I can use that. If you live in the woods like I do, and you have pecan trees in the south or whatever, and limbs fall, and particularly if your house lot is small, and you can get an electric extension cord to the fallen branches, or the branches drug up to the saw, then this is a fine little saw. It's much easier to start and fiddle with than the ordinary gasoline-powered chainsaws by a long shot. Much less trouble, lighter weight. So if you've got lightweight work to do for it, yeah, it'll do fine. Now, if you were in a cabin in Alaska and running off generator power, and this were your only chainsaw, I might be a little bit concerned about it getting you through the winter, because I don't know if it'll last that long. But for occasional work, yeah, it'll do the job. We managed to get this done before the rain. Because one thing you do not want to do, of course, is operate electric equipment in the rain. That ain't desirable. So, but now, this is Hovey Smith, reminding you to hunt what you eat and eat what you hunt. Be legal, be ethical, be safe. Goodbye, God bless, and see you next time.
I am also the author of a series of outdoor books, and these include backyard deer hunting, crossbow hunting, and practical bow fishing. Create Your Own Job Security is about you finding and running a series of businesses throughout your lifetime as you need them and when you need them, so in your later years you have something to fall back on. Tips for Harbour Freight electric chainsaws. First off, lubricate the blades before you start making cuts. Use a heavy-duty extension cord or cords. Keep them sharp. Keep lubricant in the saw and check often. For more information about my books, blogs, and more than 700 videos, go to www.hoveysmith.com. Goodbye and God bless.